You may or may not be aware of this very eye-opening leaked information from Canada, which seems to provide a roadmap for the next phase of the COVID agenda into 2021. I haven't personally been able to verify the authenticity of this information. Nevertheless, the reason I'm going to cover it today is because at least some of it is certainly plausible given the trajectory we appear to be heading in globally, and given what we know about the UN Agenda 21, 2030 and the World Economic Forum's Great Reset plans. I'll let you make up your own mind as to what you think of this article. It's from canadianreport.ca. Dear, and the name has been removed, I want to provide you some very important information. I'm a committee member within the Liberal Party of Canada. I sit within several committee groups, but the information I am providing is originating from the Strategic Planning Committee, which is steered by the PMO. I need to start off by saying that I'm not happy doing this, but I have to. As a Canadian, and more importantly, as a parent who wants a better future not only for my children, but for other children as well. The other reason I am doing this is because roughly 30% of the committee members are not pleased with the direction this will take Canada, but our opinions have been ignored, and they plan on moving forward toward their goals. They have also made it very clear that nothing will stop the planned outcomes. The roadmap and aim was set out by the PMO and is as follows. Phase in secondary lockdown restrictions on a rolling basis, starting with major metropolitan areas first and expanding outward, expected by November 2020. This sounds plausible to me, given that many world governments are considering a second lockdown, and in fact, at the time of making this video, Ireland has just been placed back into a second lockdown for 6 weeks. Rush the acquisition of, or construction of, isolation facilities across every province and territory, expected by December 2020. Daily new cases of COVID-19 will surge beyond capacity of testing, including increases in COVID-related deaths, following the same growth curves, expected by end of November 2020. Complete and total secondary lockdown, much stricter than the first, and second rolling phase restrictions, expected by end of December 2020, early January 2021. Reform and expansion of the unemployment program to be transitioned into the Universal Basic Income program, expected by Q1 2021. We've of course been talking about Universal Basic Income for quite a while now, so this also sounds plausible. Projected COVID-19 mutation and/or co-infection with secondary virus referred to as COVID-21, leading to a third wave with much higher mortality rate and higher rate of infection expected by February 2021. This would be gravely concerning and might quickly stop any dissident movement in its tracks, as the narrative would shift to COVID has mutated. Those crazy conspiracy theorists were wrong all along. It could be possible that dissidents would be scapegoated as the reason for the new outbreak. Also, could this be Pandemic 2 that Bill Gates has previously talked about?
The idea of a bioterrorist attack is kind of the nightmare scenario because they're a pathogen with a high death rate would be picked. Now, the good news is, I'm not trying to depress you, it's tough enough right now, that most of the work we're going to do to be ready for Pandemic 2, I call this Pandemic 1, most of the work we'll do to be ready for that are also the things we need to do to minimize the threat of bioterrorism. So we, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is, will get attention this time. So we, we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is, will get attention this time. That, I'd say is, will get attention this time. That, I'd say is, will get attention this time.
That will get attention this time. It's incredible that he could say that and not be challenged on it. What do you mean by that, Bill? Do you know something that we don't? How do you know what viruses are coming next? And why are you smiling about this? A new, more deadly virus released in the next few months would be a major blow to the resistance movement, in my opinion, and would likely cow the general public back into further submission to government mandates. Daily new cases of COVID-21 hospitalizations and COVID-19 and COVID-21 will exceed medical care facilities' capacity, expected Q1 to Q2 2021. Enhanced lockdown restrictions, referred to as third lockdown, will be implemented. Full travel restrictions will be imposed, including inter-province and intercity, expected Q2 2021. Transitioning of individuals into the Universal Basic Income Program, expected mid-Q2 2021. That's a lot sooner than I would have expected. Projected supply chain breakdowns, inventory shortages, large economic instability, expected late Q2 2021. Deployment of military personnel into major metropolitan areas, as well as all major roadways, to establish travel checkpoints, restrict travel and movement, provide logistical support to the area, expected by Q3 2021. So far, this sounds pretty much what I had anticipated was going to happen, but the timescale seems a little premature. This all seems way too fast, in my opinion, but it is possible that the globalists are accelerating their plans, given that they really aren't encountering as much resistance as they probably thought they would. This next part is where things get really heavy. Along with that provided roadmap, the Strategic Planning Committee was asked to design an effective way of transitioning Canadians to meet an unprecedented economic endeavour, one that would change the face of Canada and forever alter the lives of Canadians. What we were told was that in order to offset what was essentially an economic collapse on an international scale, that the federal government was going to offer Canadians a total debt relief. This is how it works. The federal government will offer to eliminate all personal debts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, etc., which all funding will be provided to Canada by the IMF under what will become known as the World Debt Reset Program. In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, the individual would forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever. The individual would also have to agree to partake in the COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule, which would provide the individual with unrestricted travel and unrestricted living, even under a full lockdown, through the use of photo identification referred to as Canada's Health Pass. This is basically what we've suspected all along, although I did not anticipate an individual debt forgiveness program. We've known about health passports like COVID Pass, Common Pass, and the Health Passport Ireland for some time now. We've also known that they have wanted to introduce a world where we couldn't travel, work, go to the shops without being involved in a digital beast system. Essentially, it's join the population control network or get left behind, become a pariah, cut off from basic services, and cut off from the ability to buy food or have a job or any kind of life, really. You'll be on the fringes of society. No vaccine passport, no life, basically. Gaining access to public buildings, shops, businesses, public transport will require a person to be vaccinated and to display their vaccine status using the app on their phone upon entry into the premises. This means the end of privacy and freedom, and the face masks were the first mandate that served as a slow grooming process of the general public. Bribing people with debt forgiveness would make sense given that we know the IMF has offered bribes to other nations to impose lockdowns and tighter controls, Belarus, of course, being a nation that rejected such an offer. I could imagine here in Ireland that by the first quarter of 2021, it's likely that most small to medium businesses on the high street and around the country will be completely shuttered permanently, which of course was the point of lockdowns and restrictions to begin with, to make them unworkable, to destroy all SMEs and force 99% of people into poverty and state dependence on welfare. The government will then transition from welfare to universal basic income, which essentially makes everyone in the country a kind of employee of the government. And then the government can determine whether you get paid or not based on your level of compliance with their authority. the universal basic income will likely be incorporated eventually into a cashless society. We'll be told cash has to be